Putin News Now. Putin is a depressed character who is misinformed. Armando Iannucci is a writer and director who has achieved widespread acclaim for his biting political satire on shows like Veep and The Thick of It, as well as its film spin-off, In the Loop. The Russian Culture Ministry banned his 2017 black comedy The Death of Stalin because it mocks the political intrigues that ensued after Stalin's death in 1953. A storyteller's gathering, Iannucci recently visited Tbilisi for the three-day ZEG festival. While in Tbilisi, Iannucci spoke with Vaja Tavbaridze of RFE/RL's Georgian service for an interview. Iannucci claims that contemporary Russia is very similar to the Soviet Union depicted in The Death of Stalin, with the sycophants around Russian President Vladimir Putin eager to please and avoiding uncomfortable truths. Iannucci has said that a 12-year-old, in a suit, would be his first choice to play Putin. The death of Putin, if that's what you mean, would require a chain of events to be set in motion that hasn't happened yet. It worries me that much of my professional life is spent reacting to the demise of truth. Putin's hand in this can be seen in the general assault on language and the fact that, even in Russia, you can be arrested for calling it a war when it isn't a war. What are you worried about? It's a special military operation that will be over in a matter of weeks. A simple act of holding up a blank card can be interpreted as a sign of opposition and lead to arrest. People are supposedly only able to tell Putin what he wants to hear, but this is only a rumor so far. So the military went ahead and tried to convince him that the war would be over quickly because the Ukrainian people would revolt. This is the result of Stalin's reign of terror, which is the central theme of The Death of Stalin. This person's terrifying behavior ultimately led to his own death. He suffered a stroke in the middle of the night, but no one was brave enough to check on him until morning. No one dared call for medical help without first polling the committee. Because of his fearmongering, nobody knew who to call for medical help, and he ultimately killed himself. I believe this to be the case, and that Putin is currently being presented with facts that are, in fact, completely fabricated. All the nice things people can say to him without getting in trouble. So he lives in this unreal world he's made for himself, and it will eventually burst. People who had lived through the Stalin era told us there were books full of jokes about secret police chief Lavrentiy Beria, Stalin, the gulags, and the executions when we were doing research for The Death of Stalin. People said, but we needed to tell jokes because the situation was so absurd, even though doing so could get you arrested and shot. You can either find it hilarious or completely terrifying. And sometimes laughter is the only way to make sense of the seemingly absurd. And they'd add, he could lock me up, he could take my business away, he could take my family away, but I can still make a joke about him and then he hasn't shut my mind down. Dictators and autocrats despise humor and view all forms of creative expression with suspicion because of their inability to influence the audience's reaction. It's not your fault if people laugh at your jokes, no matter how tasteless they may be. It's a physical reaction that comes from deep within. And that's precisely what bothers them. They don't like that they have no say in how you react to humor. This is crucial because, as you probably already know, something is wrong with you if you can't laugh at your own expense. There is groundless worry and paranoia that can be easily mocked. During Donald Trump's entire presidency, he regularly complained about Saturday Night Live on Twitter after the show aired. His humor was terrible, and he left a terrible impression. People don't typically express the desire not to be the punchline of a joke by saying, I don't want you to make a joke about me. I'm a professional comedian, and I can assure you that the jokes you're telling about me aren't funny at all. I see, that's how they sidestep the rule. However, the sharpness is the issue. The first time their armor is breached is when they react negatively to a joke that is made about them.